Welcome to the Budget Holdem for Schools session of ERS's virtual Strategic Budget Partner Retreat. I'm Tara Anderson, manager at ERS, and I'll be guiding you and your team through playing Budget Holdem for Schools. Fun fact, as a teacher, I had a knack for rewriting song lyrics to teach content. Two favorites were a rap about sedimentary rocks, which was a fun one to rhyme, and the time my colleagues Michelle, Cameron, and I performed in the talent show as Run TMC. We'll begin by reviewing resource reallocation decisions that can support strategic school design. Then you'll play Budget Hold'em for Schools with your team. You'll need about an hour to play the game. For this session, you'll need 3 materials. First, your viewing guide. Second, the case study of Davis High School. And third, your Budget Hold'em for Schools score sheet. Please take a moment to open these materials before we continue. In this section, we'll identify the most common types of resource allocations that drive school design changes, and we'll discuss how these changes may cause varying degrees of disruption from traditional instruction. As we like to say at ERS, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. It's all about the choices and trade-offs schools make. But we know that resource reallocation decisions can be difficult. At least 80% of school-based funds pay for positions. As we think of resource reallocations, we're often talking about shifts and/or cuts to existing positions. As we go through these examples, you'll see each decision has a disruptive index from low to high, indicating how much a particular decision would change how a school delivers daily instruction. These changes may require more support and professional development to ensure success, though the index is not an indication of better or worse practices. Please consider the resource reallocations on the subsequent slides with that lens in mind. In your role as budget and finance partners, you play a critical role in helping school leaders navigate these tough decisions. We'll now walk through 7 types of resource reallocations that schools might make. A. Reconfigure your non-instructional staff. B. Staff non-core classes 100% efficiently. C. Use less expensive partners to staff non-core classes, enrichment, and/or after-school programs. D. Increase non-core class sizes. E. Increase core class sizes. F. Time tech swap. And finally, G. Increase teacher utilization. Option A is to reconfigure your non-instructional staff, moving from a high investment in non-teaching roles to investments optimized against priorities. Particularly in small schools, the overhead of administrative staff can be very high and teacher utilization can be low when in schools that are trying to offer many course offerings. Generation schools divvied up the admin responsibilities across teachers because they had such low teacher utilizations. Teachers teach classes for 4 periods and serve as guidance counselors for 2. This can be particularly effective in schools that have low teaching utilization, which tend to be smaller schools. The next option is to staff non-core classes 100% efficiently. Moving from non-core teachers who teach less than a full schedule or have small class sizes to non-core teachers who are fully utilized. Schools may also elect to limit the breadth of offerings and reallocate resources to other priority areas where appropriate. Schools can use less expensive partners to staff non-core classes, enrichment, and/or after school. So for example, rather than having a certified teacher, a school could bring in artists, community colleges, local businesses, and youth service organizations to provide a wider array of offerings to students. For some schools, this may be a way to achieve 100% efficiency in non-core instruction. Schools may also be able to increase non-core class sizes, moving from 4 sections of 22 in electives to 3 elective sections of 29 to 30 students. If students typically attend electives and cohorts, review the number of non-core teachers compared to sections per grade. There may be room to pool core sections together to reduce the number of non-core teachers needed. Also note there may be some specials where large group sizes are more appropriate, such as PE. In some cases, it may be appropriate to increase core class sizes as well, as a way of freeing up teaching staff. Increases to core classes such as math and literacy should be done with careful consideration, though these increased class sizes may not necessarily mean increased group sizes, as teachers can still work with small groups of students within a period. How can you strategically increase class size? First, Target class size increases to particular subjects or grade levels. For example, keep ELA small while increasing other core content areas if ELA is the priority. Or increase class sizes in 11th and 12th grade where students are ready for more independence and can smooth the transition to college. Second, ensure students have targeted opportunities for very small group size where it matters most, leveraging technology, push-in staff, and/or special population staff, and/or regrouping across classrooms at key moments to lower group sizes. Note that a school's ability to strategically increase class size will vary widely depending on starting class size and school size. Smaller schools with very few strands per grade often have little ability to change group size in small increments. As students and teachers have developed more comfort with remote learning, it may be even more feasible to implement a time tech swap, moving from 4 sections taught by a certified teacher to 3 sections with a certified teacher and 1 technology rotation that could be staffed by a para or teaching assistant. Depending on the willingness of schools to have students spend significant time on technology and their capacity to have that time be used well, schools can increase the student-teacher ratio while maintaining group sizes. Finally, it may be possible for schools to free up resources by increasing teacher utilization or the proportion of a day that a teacher spends instructing students. On the left, we have a 4-block schedule in which the teacher teaches 3 of 4 periods and is left with 90 minutes of planning time daily. On the right, we have a 5-block schedule in which teachers teach 4 of 5 periods and have 72 minutes of planning time daily. Making this shift means there are fewer teachers required to implement the schedule, which could free resources to provide expert support to teachers' collaborative planning, as an example. Note that any change to teacher utilization will require consideration of the impact to collaborative planning time and the student experience. Changes are most strategic with low starting utilization levels. For example, cases where teachers currently have more than 90 minutes of planning. Here, we've summarized how teacher utilization affects how much different types of schedules cost. A lot of districts do 3 out of 4 periods. Some do 5 out of 6. The idea is as you move from the right to the left within the confines of your collective bargaining agreement and student and teacher needs, you're able to move from a more expensive schedule to a less expensive schedule. Schools may also look for investments that have a low ROI in supporting their vision and look to discontinue those investments. Some examples include one-off professional development workshops that are isolated from ongoing professional growth and support, after-school programming that is not deeply integrated within the overall school day, and other miscellaneous legacy purchases, programs, and/or positions. As a reminder, these design decisions should be rooted in school's context, and low ROI activities in one context may actually be high in another based on student and teacher needs. Now, you're going to put yourselves in the shoes of principals, apply what you know about strategic school design, and think about investments and trade-offs at the school level by playing Budget Holdem for schools. As you play the game, you'll be examining different investments and savings opportunities. The objectives of the game are to gain insights about different types of school-level trade-offs, compare the relative size of different trade-offs, and learn from one another and have fun. The object of the game is to create a hand of investments and savings cards that help Davis High School meet its target budget while still moving towards improved student performance. So in other words, you have to weigh the potential investments you want to make against the savings you'll need to make to pay for them. By the end of the game, you'll have created a cost-neutral selection of savings and investment cards, so the net budget impact of your investments and savings should be 0. Over the next 50 minutes, you'll break into small groups of 3 to 4 and play Budget Holdem for schools. In step 1, split up your team and assign roles: scorekeeper, taskmaster, and spokesperson. In step 2, you'll review the case study with your small group for Davis High and identify priorities that your final budget should address. Step 3 should take about 25 minutes. Here, you'll read through all of the cards with your small group. The scorekeeper should quickly read each card option and as the team votes on each card. The scorekeeper will flag each card as yes, no, or maybe in the spreadsheet. Finally, in step 4, You'll spend about 15 minutes finalizing your hand. Consider the principal's priorities and the interrelationship between each card option. The scorekeeper is keeping track of the budget impact to aim to get to cost-neutral status. Be prepared to share your final budget impact with the larger group and the types of savings and investments you made and why. Keep the following ideas in mind as you play. Select cards thoughtfully. Not all choices are strategic. Larger hands mean more or too many investments in place. Some choices might reduce the budget but wouldn't improve student performance. Next, consider the interrelationships between cards. Some cards will work better when paired with others. For example, if you choose to increase class size, you should also consider investing in expert teachers for small group instruction. Accept approximation. The budget percentages are estimates based on ERS's work in urban districts over the past 15 years. They are averages and include high-level assumptions and are meant to be directionally correct. Don't avoid staffing cuts. Try different staffing allocations. Most districts would not be able to reach budget reduction targets without reducing staff. As you may recall from earlier in today's discussion, personnel costs are typically 80 to 90% of district budgets. The key is to try to choose the staff reduction options that move towards transformation and support overall priorities. Be bold. Don't avoid a card for fear of feasibility in the real world. A controversial choice may be difficult to implement, but well worth the effort in the improvement it can create. And of course, discussion of hard choices is a key objective of this exercise. Finally, use wildcards. If you have a district priority not found in the Holdem card set, consider estimating its cost and benefits on a wildcard. Remember, the value is in discussion, so getting the cost or benefit estimate exactly accurate is not a big priority. Your team is now ready to play Budget Holdem for Schools. Pause this video and come back once you've finalized your hand and are ready to share your final budget impact and the types of savings and investment choices you made. Bring up your viewing guide and spend a few moments reflecting independently and then discussing as a team. First, which of your selected cards would be most disruptive in your district, in that it would change how daily instruction is delivered? Second, which of your selected cards would be difficult to carry out for other reasons in your district, and why might that be? Third, from a principal's perspective, what parts of this process are challenging? And finally, fourth, what can you do as budget partners to support principals through navigating these tough challenges?